Hello, everyone. Joanne Williams here, and it's Happy New Year to you all. And this is Anxiety Simplified podcast, and I'm going to share some compelling strategies that I've used as I've worked with my clients as a 30-year licensed mental health professional that you can use now in your life. I hope to make your life just a little bit easier. Our subject today is going to be the brand new changes happening for emotional support animals and psychiatric service dog training for panic attacks. Psychiatric Service Dog, or PSD, is one of the new classes of service animals that is born out of the changes for emotional support animals from the new Department of Transportation, or DOT, regulations that I will put the summary of this regulation in the show notes for you to look at. But it was announced on December 2nd, 2020 for changes for airline travel. So some other names you may hear is mental health service dogs, a service dog for panic attacks, psychiatric service animal, or psychiatric support dog. So some of today's podcast and video is going to be about changes for emotional support animals in airline travel, new rules for airline travel with psychiatric service dogs, who and how to qualify for a psychiatric service dog, and psychiatric service dog training for anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder, and why psychiatric service dog help with panic attacks, PTSD, depression, and autism. So the question of the day is, what is the only question that a person can be asked to determine if they have a psychiatric service dog? So let me tell you a little bit about my story with emotional support animals. I was so relieved when I found out that there was a federal law that I could have my cute little furry emotional support animal fly with me. I took him with me everywhere and had him on my lap for the last 6 years flying. I just needed a letter from my therapist stating I need my dog to fly with me because I have anxiety to fly. Then I took him with me. That is no longer the case. This is a big loss for me and many others who have relied and needed their dogs to fly with them to see family or feel more comfort as they fly on a plane, gone with the stroke of a pen. Additionally, as a therapist, I've certified clients to have an emotional support animal to get that letter so they could fly, with this very long-standing law as the requirement. Now, in the middle of the worst pandemic and mental health crisis our country has ever faced, gone is one of the simplest, best way I have ever seen as a therapist to help lower anxiety. Gone. Like every other norm we have known in this crazy year, the power has been given to the airlines to do basically what they want. I think there's going to be a lot of confusion right now, and uncertainty, which we do not need. In my opinion, mental health is not seen as something we need to recognize if it is inconvenience for the airlines. We seem to only give lip service to mental health needs, even with extensive medical research on how much our dogs help us. In podcast 11, you can see more about exactly that data and how that really 10 ways your dog can help lower stress, blood pressure, calm the the whole environment that they're in. So anyone with an emotional support animal will need to understand what is needed and next. And I will be seeking out the rest of the information about exactly what this new regulation does state to get certified so I can travel again with my little dog, because the information is not clear yet. Some of the airlines we have spoken with, they said, oh, I don't know, or maybe in 6 months. And then JetBlue is saying January 11th. I don't know what they're changing to because it is not clear exactly what's needed yet. So I'm sorry, I cannot give all the data yet either. But I will figure it out so that I can continue to bring my dog. And I will help others do that as well if they would like to. There still are the two federal laws, one for airline travel and one for housing, that have been around for a long time that are still in effect. For housing, it's the Fair Housing Act, the FHA. I'm sure you've heard of it. 1973, that started 47 years ago. Oh, yes, 48 years ago. For people with disabilities, physical and emotional, to have their animal with them in housing and not be discriminated against. There's no changes to this law. You still need a letter from a mental health professional stating that you have a diagnosis that affects the daily functioning that your animal helps you with. So I will still certify for emotional support animals. For air travel, the Air Carriers Access Act, enacted in 1986, 35 years ago, enables you to bring an animal, mostly dogs and cats, on the plane with you, to be on your lap the entire flight or at your feet, but outside of a carrier and not being stuffed in cargo. But 12/2/20, the Department of Transportation, in their wisdom, has changed the regulation. No more ESA on planes. They are considered pets. But the date that this will take effect is not yet effective or known. As I understand this new law, the regulation, and the new classification will be needed as a psychiatric service dog or a PSD. And up to 2 dogs can be with you, but only dogs, no other kind of animals. And there is more stringent requirements. And a DOT form is needed to be completed and submitted, attesting by penalty of a felony, really, that your dog is trained, and I'm going to put that at air quotes, to perform a task that helps you with your psychological symptoms. The training. The person can train their own dog themselves or have a professional train them, or the animal could have intuitively trained themselves. Being trained means that the dog can recognize, sometimes before you, and respond in some way that alleviates your psychological symptoms. More on that. For example, training for a psychiatric service dog for panic attacks, the dog might notice when you are starting to get anxious, maybe even before you do, and the dog responds to that, notices that. And for instance, comes over and licks at you or puts his head in your lap. And this alerts you to your rising anxiety before it escalates to a panic attack. And this calms you down. And this would be an example of being trained to perform a task that your dog is recognizing and responding to you, and this alleviates your psychological symptoms. Or training for a psychiatric service dog for depression could be that the dog comes over, licks it, paws at you to wake you up So one of the symptoms, because that's one of the symptoms of depression, that you can sleep too much and your dog comes and gets you out of bed. And that is trained to do a task. The examples could go on for all the different ways a dog could be defined as a PSD. But here's some more examples of how the dog can recognize, respond, and alleviate your psychological symptoms for you to have a PSD. Maybe takes you out of an overwhelming situation that post-traumatic stress disorder triggers. Calms you in a crowd by being a barrier between you and others. Or brings you back from a disassociative state. This can happen in post-traumatic stress disorder, panic attacks, that you just feel like you maybe leave your body. You can see yourself looking down. And this dog brings you back to reality by licking at you, maybe pawing at you to ground you. Maybe gets between you and others as you walk down the street, and just helps to keep people away from you. And a lot of times with people, I see this, they have big dogs like German Shepherds, and that their presence themselves just keeps people a little bit away so that, they just don't approach you. For people who really have fear on the streets, sometimes from post-traumatic stress disorder, social anxiety, other things. How about that they nudge you to keep moving in a crowd? Because again, sometimes you kind of get stuck and paralyzed a little bit. And or in social situations, they're icebreakers so that people notice them more than you, and that just helps you to calm down so you can relate just a little bit better in social situations. And we mentioned about helping you get out of bed with depression, or helps you with your overwhelmed state because of depression. And how about comes and lays on your chest or lays on your body? This can help sometimes with panic attacks. It just pressure itself can help, or calming for autistic persons before their episode worsens. So if you believe your animal helps you with one of the above, then you are pre-qualified. If you want to take this next step to get a certified PSD with me, if you do want to get a PSD by me as a mental health professional, you would need an evaluation. There's a form we have on our site, and we would look at how and why you would need your psychological dog to help with these symptoms, to calm you or whatever your diagnosis is. So we'd find a diagnosis and see how your dog helps you, would be your next step. Now for housing, again, this process is the same, and I would ask the same questions, diagnosis and how your animal assists you. Because I have been certifying for emotional support, and I actually have been certifying for PSD dogs for the last year, you receive an official letter stating that you need your animal, recommendation that you do, and a photo ID if you choose of your dog that does say is a certified PSD. This way, a lot of clients just want this letter and want the ID that helps them to lower their anxiety just having this certification. So they're not questioned so much. This is not required for airline travel. But the law for a PSD is much broader and actually gives more rights. And it is the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA. I'm sure you've heard of it. But it was enacted in 1990, so it's 31 years old. But this was a landmark civil rights legislation which increases access and opportunity for people with disabilities across the community, including employment. Emotional disabilities are a disability, and that's why it has to be diagnosed and documented. By law, the only question that can be asked is, how is your dog trained to help you with a task? Or what task is your dog trained to help you with? On our PSD letters and IDs, that wording is written on there directly so that that is the only question that can be asked, and it can help you really understand that if you get anxious if somebody does ask you. But here's the 5 benefits that getting a certified PSD under the ADA law helps with. Going in public places, stores, restaurants, employment, to fly on a plane, in the cabin with you, on your lap, or at your feet. And there is no fees, weight, or breed restrictions. They just do need to be able to fit in your space. And there is the bulkhead row if you need it, so that there is extra leg room there. Can be in no pet housing without, again, no weight or breed restrictions. And there is no fees for pet rents deposits. If you are interested in more information, or if you have questions, we have kind of become the consultant for this at this point. Call us at 760-485-6784. Or you can go to our website to see more at esapros.com. The ESA is for Emotional Support Animal, and then so it's esapros with an S.com. Or please listen to our other podcasts at anxietysimplified.net. A lot of good strategies for lowering anxiety. And something coming up for me, I will be offering a seminar in January. Unleash your inner rock star in social situations. Techniques for letting go of that inner worries and what to say in conversations. And get the conversation starters. In our 6-week seminar, starting on January 27th, space is very limited since the max size of the group or the seminar is only 4. So it will be an intimate, women-only group. But please reach out for more information. We are here to help. So thank you for listening. But please support our podcast by rating, reviewing, and subscribing. Please. We do need your support to show that people are listening and enjoying our podcasts. Remember to use and practice these skills or reach out for help today to feel the joys of life. And go to our website, anxietysimplified.net, for more information on how to get certified for emotional support or psychiatric service dog today. And remember to share the love.